Tova Leigh. Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you for taking part in this orgasmic, what am I saying, Freudian slip, in this interview today. I'm very happy to have you here. So let's start at the beginning. What inspired you to create content about motherhood, sexuality, body image with humor, with comedy?
One word, desperation.
Oh, wow.
No, because the first part of your question was what inspired you to create content about motherhood. So yeah, it was definitely desperation.
But using humor as a medium, how did you decide to make it into something about, like, with using comedy?
I mean, to be honest, I wish I could say that this was a really smart master plan that I had really thought about, sort of knew exactly what I was doing, but it really wasn't. I think probably my way of coping with how I was feeling was through comedy. So in the time, I didn't feel like things were funny at all. But not even one bit. The kids were really young. I have 3 daughters, and I think I started the blog when my twins were 2 and my eldest was 4. So still very much in the, surrounded by nappies and just in that real fog of the early years of motherhood. And things didn't feel funny at all. But then I started ranting, and I don't know, the rants were funny. I suppose, like, when hear it out loud, there's something funny about it, and people used to say to me, oh, how can you laugh, how do you manage to laugh? And I thought, listen, I don't laugh in the moment, trust me. Like, in the moment I'm crying, I'm screaming, I'm not laughing at all. But later on, when I reflect, I see the comedy in it, and that was, I think, a way for me to cope. And then I just carried on doing that, with everything else that I do. So it kind of led into talking more about women and body image. And I really do believe that comedy helps. Like, you can get the information in so many ways. And I also do serious stuff as well. But when you see someone prancing around in a swimming suit with a massive wig tucked in to represent their enormous bush, and they're, singing, Bush of Glory, you can't help but laugh, and then kind of just maybe feel a little bit better about your own body. And that was my goal, really. That was my goal. And it really does help me as well. Every time I do something ridiculous like that, it just makes everything else feel very easy, not a challenge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So how is your creative process with your videos? Do you record them yourself? Do you get an idea and just do it? Or do they take time? How does it vary?
Really depends. I create a lot of content, like a lot. So it's so different. There are things that I think about in advance, and I'd say probably most of my serious videos, I think about them a lot before, and there's a whole process in them. I do a lot of videos about women's rights, and I've made videos about rape, and I've made videos about sexism, and I've made videos about abortions, and lots of very heavy, big topics. So those are topics that I really do like to take my time to make. I will research them. I'll really do my homework. I'll find a lot of references, and before I even write the script, and then I write the script, and then I shoot the video, and then we look for a whole bunch of stuff that goes into B-roll, whether it's articles or, a lot of data to back up what I'm saying. Because for me, it's really important that if I'm going to put that type of piece of content out there, I really wanted to I know people are going to come at me. I know people are going to question what I'm saying. This is not comedy. This is not like do you know what I mean? Like, I want to be backed up with a lot of facts. So those take a long time. Like, that could take me a whole month just for one video. But a lot of the comedy videos, and especially the short format, the reels, the TikToks, they're very throwaway. They could just be something that I saw in the morning, or, some silly thing. And I so wish I was organized enough to sort of be that creator that has days of shooting content and then days of doing this or that, but it just never works that way for me.
Maybe it's better that it's more spontaneous, and also you get your family involved as well. How does that work? Do they enjoy it?
My family are involved to an extent. Like, my kids have been in some of my videos. To be honest, they don't do a lot. Sometimes they do stuff that's more like branded things that we do because it's maybe children's products, or maybe it made sense for them to be in there. But they're literally in there as actors, roles that they play. They know what they're supposed to do. It would literally be like me hiring other, child actors to play my children. And I pay them, it's very
great.
It's a work, it's a job thing, and that's it. And I'm not a big fan of the sort of shooting them in real life, like just doing their, do you know what I mean? Like just playing in the playground or doing, it's not my cup of tea to do that. My husband Mike is more involved in what I do, obviously, because he's a grown-up and he can make those decisions for himself, and he's happy to, he does a lot of the videos with me. And of course we do a podcast together. We do Till Death Do Us Pod, which is our weekly podcast. And that's fun. It's fun that we are able to do those things together. My community love Mike. A lot of them are American, and they are with his accent.
Oh wow, I do love that video of yours that when you're singing with the microphone and you see him from the side, like holding up the hairdryer.
That is literally our life.
It must be really funny just to have that art going on as part of family time as well.
Yeah, although I feel like for people from the outside, it probably seems more fun than what it actually is in real life. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That. And we do make ourselves laugh probably more than what we're not that funny, like we hysterical, but sometimes it doesn't feel, it's not like that. Sometimes it just feels like work, I think.
I guess the laughs come in the editing after, when you see it all edited.
I think the nailed it videos, those type of small videos, we laugh in the moment a lot, especially the nailed it ones where we're trying to mimic some athlete or some great dancers who are doing something. And, we never rehearse those. It's very off the cuff, like just do it. And usually we do it a couple of times, but the first take is 9 times out of 10 the take that I actually use, because it's just, yes, we didn't think about it. We just really tried. And usually we just laugh our way through it because we can't do anything. Like, it's just so bad. And those are fun, but a lot of the other things we do, it feels like work because it is work, and I don't lie about it either, because I think there's a lot of that kind of false thing on social media. It's like, this is just a fly off the wall looking at my life. And it's like, no, it's not, it's never like that. So, yeah.
So you're going on tour soon, I believe. And what are you doing, a monologue, or is it going to be some sketches? What's it going to be like?
So I'm going on tour to promote my new book, You Did What, which is a collection of secrets and confessions and basically stories really from women from all over the world. And the idea behind the book was that I've been sharing people's confessions for years. I started on Facebook a few years ago, just as let's do something on a Friday night. Let's just have a drink, hang out and just read confessions. And it soon became like this thing that everybody was really looking forward to every Friday. And what I discovered through Pajama Party was that people hide the same secrets. So no matter where you are from the world, people experience shame and embarrassment over the same things. People do the same things and hide them. And secondly, what we discovered was that when they do share them and they get that feedback, they get the feedback of, wow, really? I thought I was the only one who did that, who said that, who had that experience, who felt that way. It really made them feel better because they went, I'm not weird. Like, I always thought this was so weird, but actually I'm normal. Look, we just don't speak about it. And I just thought we need to put this in a book, so I'm really hopeful that that's what people take away from the book. And then the tour is to promote the book. So in the show, I basically share a lot of my own confessions and secrets about the different themes that are in the book. So motherhood and sex, relationships, body image, all kinds of things. And I share some of other people's confessions in there as well. And there are some surprises. So I usually say that my shows are storytelling, because I'm not a stand-up comedian, but I tell stories, and some of them are funny. But there is something that I've never done that I'm doing in this show, which I'm not going to
very intriguing.
Surprise. And I am shitting myself. Like I am.
So how does it compare being on stage to actually making videos? There's a massive difference in that. Are you more nervous about going on stage?
So different. I hate it. Like the process before the going on stage, I'm like nearly physically ill, I'm like, I feel sick. I want to vomit. I feel like, what have I done? Why am I here? Why did I put myself through this? This is awful. But then once I'm on stage, it's so much fun. And to get the sort of that connection with the audience is something you just don't have, obviously, when you make a video. And even when you're doing a live video and people are like, talking in the comments, it's still just so, do you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. So that is amazing to have that connection. And I went on tour last year when my first book came out, which we talked about last time. And that was the absolute best thing about the tour, was meeting people in person and being able to then chat to them after the shows. And I'm really excited about that aspect. I'm petrified about the performance, but really excited to meet people in person.
That's when you realize that what you're doing in your own home is actually reaching people. You don't really realize it when you see numbers on the screen. So I've had the same experience of doing tours in sex shops here in Spain. People say, I bought this because of you and it's changed my life. I'm like, whoa. You just realize that every one comment is a person, it's incredible.
That is so true. Because sometimes you get even like really lovely messages, and of course they mean so much, people saying, I read your book, or I saw this video and it made a difference, and this is how it impacted me. And that's always amazing. But sometimes it doesn't have to happen often, obviously, but sometimes someone will say that to me on the street. Mm-hmm. And that always blows me away. Because like you said, it's like, oh my God, it's a real person. Like it's not just like a DM,
Absolutely. And also I've been reading your book this week, and I'm really happy to see that you included body fluids and more specifically bowel movements. I think it's such an important part of life that we don't really discuss. And especially, I remember years ago when I had going away on holiday with some boyfriends in a hotel, and I felt like I couldn't go to the loo because they would hear in the bathroom of the hotel. Then I ended up being like constipated and bloated, and then just feeling really uncomfortable, being naked with this like huge belly going on, and it's really crazy how. And then when you get to a stage where there are farts and you can talk about these things, that you reach a whole new level of intimacy. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and it's funny because people. I don't know if it's like an automated reaction that we have adopted just because that's what we feel how we feel we need to react to it. The sort of like, ooh, like something, but you're right. It's like, it's so normal and it's so human. And why is it like that? I honestly, before doing confessions, did not realize how many people had funny oops poop related stories out there, like did not realize. And that was probably the most confessions actually ever sent in were probably about poop. So to anybody listening out there, if you've got a sort of weird poop story, please know that you are not alone because it's very common.
I've just come to mind now something that happened to me when I was a student living in Paris. I was with this nice French guy. We went out one night to the theater and had dinner. And then the next morning, we woke up in my tiny single bed, and he got out of bed and said, don't look at my underwear. There was no toilet paper in the toilet yesterday or something. And I was like, I just saw this like huge epic skid marks on this white underwear. I was like, I could never be with the guy again. It was just like,
Wow.
It was just like awful. And I mean, if you'd gone through that, you'd surely try and hide it, you know. The fact there was no shame, it was really weird.
No, why would he highlight it? That's just so funny. Oh
He said,
God.
"Don't look at it." But I was like, once you say "don't look," you look,
Yeah,
don't you?
yeah,
But also with some boyfriends, it's been really funny that the farting is another funny thing. I used to have an online kind of slave for a few years, and he had this like kind of symphony fart, like a really long one that would change in. It was just incredible. And every time he did it, he would like dance. It was one of our kind of funny jokes. But I think when you reach that level of intimacy, when it's just funny for you too, it's just really beautiful, isn't it? As well.
that is, I mean, to be honest, I don't really know what to say to that. That is great. I feel like I should have talked to you before the book came out. You would have had great stories to add to this book, you know. Fart Symphony. Never heard that.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, it's I wouldn't dare to do that in front of someone else, really. But it's nice when someone else takes the lead, so to speak.
I feel so comfortable that they can, you know, play music with their bottom.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of body image and body shame, you share a lot of content about this topic, and it's such an important topic, especially on social media where we see so much fakery. I mean, first of all, people are kind of operated at, you know, very young ages now, and then we've got all the filters in place. It's just a really crazy world of perfection and pressure. So
Yeah.
tell us about your content on body and body image.
I mean, to be honest, like I feel now, you know, it's gone through so many different stages. And I think that is also a reflection of probably my age and age in general, because how we see the world, it changes throughout your life. So I would say a few years ago, if you asked me that question just after I had written Fucked at 40 and I had my midlife crisis, I would have talked to you loads about, you know, the stuff that I did, the reconnecting to the body, to the dancing, the moving, the finding my sexuality again, the all of those things. But now, if I'm being honest, I come to it from a completely different point of view now. I just really don't have time to waste anymore on, you know, on thinking, you know, on kind of thinking, on that thinking about my body in those type of terms. You know, I'm so grateful that I have a body. I'm so grateful that my body works. You know, honestly, that I up every morning and I can walk and I'm breathing and I can do the things that I need to do and want to do. I'm just so grateful. And I don't know if it was coming out of a pandemic, you know, where lots very ill, and I'm so grateful, you know, my body got me through it. And whether it's, you know, turning 46 next month and going, you know what, it's going to be very soon where when I can officially say I've had more past than future. Do I really want to spend the rest of the time that I have here thinking about my weight and what, you know, and what size I am? I'm just not interested anymore, you know? And I'm very sympathetic, obviously, to anybody who's still in that place, who still, you know, really feels, you know, maybe feels uncomfortable, wants to change something, or not happy. I get it. I was there for many, many years, but I do still share a lot of content about body image, but I'm coming at it, I think, now from a completely different place. And I think for me, just exposure is probably has more of an impact, you know. One of the things that I'm talking about at the moment, and I was going to share something probably in the next few days in that line as well, is just it really made a massive difference to me when I changed. I think what you see around you impacts what you think about yourself. And if you surround yourself only by, like you said, a lot of accounts on social media that are very one type of accounts. And so, like you said, the filtered, the very pretty, the very beautiful, glossy, all that, then it impacts you. It impacts how you see the world and what you think about yourself. And I just did a cleanup. I was like, this doesn't make me feel great. So why am I following this person? Like, good for them, but it's not for me. And I just completely changed the people I was following. And when I go on Instagram now, I really see a very diverse kind of a bunch of people who are doing a bunch of different things and great things, and and they have different body types and shapes and sizes, and I feel very normal, amongst them. And I just think that's something within our control, because you can't really control directly what you're going to see in advertisements and in movies and in the magazines. But you can very easily control what you see on your feed on social media. You just have to choose who to follow. So yeah,
definitely. I think social media can be a great thing or a bad thing depending on the accounts you follow, and listening to your body and how it makes you feel, if it's a good thing or a bad thing. There's so many body positive accounts out there, and there's also something I saw on Instagram which really I found very disturbing, was these adverts for Facetune. Those it's actually
yes,
filters, but also with video, and they were taking a person who looked really good without it, and they look better without it, and then kind of smoothing out the skin and making the hair a different color, making their eyes big. That just looks weird, making their eyes bigger, and then painting their lips. And then all the comments on the bottom were like, this is terrible, this is terrible. And I mean, I think people are just so sick of this, and I think it must be much harder for young people growing up now. I mean, in my time, it was, magazines or something, whereas now everyone's got this kind of pressure on their phones. Do you think the fact that you're a mother of daughters kind of influences your body image content?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot about my girls, and especially, a lot of the stuff that I do and I talk about is with them in mind. Of course, I want them to grow up in a world that is kinder to women and is better. So that definitely does drive me. When it comes to the body image thing, well, first of all, my kids are not on social media. They don't have devices, and I probably am scaring them about social media like my parents scared me about drugs.
Well, it's quite similar depending on how you use it, I suppose.
Oh, exactly. Like, it has a lot of similarity. It can be really bad for you, and it's addictive and all those type of things, whatever. But so I'm talking to them quite openly about how I use social media and why I use it, and it's my job, and we talk about it a lot, and what it, and with regards to the body image, you talked about filters. It's a real decision for me that I make, and I make it every day, is to just not use those filters.
No filter.
No filters. And I could be waking up in the morning and have no makeup and still do a story, and obviously sometimes, I mean, it happens literally once in a blue moon, but sometimes I will have a picture that was done by a professional photographer in a studio with great lighting and amazing makeup, and and maybe it was even airbrushed, I don't know, but I will make a point to say, so that people know this image was a professional image. It really happens very rarely. But I think what it is that if people are at least honest about that and upfront about it, then it potentially would be less damaging. But
so do you think there should be warnings? Do you think there should be warnings?
I do. Yeah, just like there are warnings on cigarette packs, like this harm. So yeah, people should say, there should be a warning, like a disclaimer, why not?
So how can we deal with body shamers? Because sometimes there's too much of that, I guess, online and offline. I remember recently I actually hosted an event by the beach, and there was a woman walking around with not much clothes on, but wearing this tiny thong. And this woman in the group I was with was like, "Oh my God, look at the state of her." And I just felt so bad. I just thought, you don't know what someone's story is, or about why. And I think we should be admiring people's confidence rather than trying to body shame them.
I think, it's you really hit it. Like, this is exactly what I think, that how dare she, the look at her, the state of her, really what it is how dare she, there's that kind of how dare she. And by the way, the how dare she, sometimes it comes not just about body, but it could even be about success. daring to dream, be big, being anything outside of the box that was dictated, like for women. So if you walk slightly outside of that box, you will get the, how dare she, who does she think she is? Here am I slaving over, eating celery for 30 years. And I will never walk with a thong on the beach because, no, like, and there she is, just how dare she? And I'm not crossed, by the way, when it comes from women.
That's really sad, isn't it? We should be supporting each other.
It's frustrating and it's disappointing. And I won't lie, like in the moment, you just want to go, no, I'm on your team. Like, no, but it takes a moment, but I do have a lot of empathy, because I know that when it comes from a woman, it really does come, I think, from a place where we're hurt and we've all been brainwashed. Do you know what I mean? So I will try at least to make an effort to have a dialogue with that, but I also get it from men. And I actually shared, and then I'm much less interested in what they have to say, by the way. Like, I really don't care what strange men think about me, my life, my body, couldn't give a shit. But I did share a little kind of video that I got this message from this guy. You saw it?
I think I saw it. You made a collection of messages. I think I saw on a post.
Things. One was like a collection, but one was this DM from this James guy. I hid his last name, obviously, in his image. That basically said, down the line, like, you're disgusting, and how dare you walk around in the internet and promote, like, you're just lazy, and whatever. And he said, like, how dare you, or something like that. And I said, in my post, I actually took it away from James, because it wasn't about him. It was more about, actually, I feel like women are pressured to engage in our appearance so that we get distracted and we don't notice what everything else that's going on. Because, if we're constantly consumed by our weight and constantly consumed by what we look like, then are we actually paying attention to other things that are happening in the world? And I did like have that moment, like, God, if I actually counted the number of minutes, hours, and days in my life that have been dedicated to trying to count calories or whatever, that's a lot of minutes. That's a lot of minutes. And I started thinking, well, who's benefiting from that? Who benefits from that I'm engaged in that so much? And I think the more successful women are, the more they are, like, there's a demand on them to look a certain way or to whatever. So I took it as a compliment that James was so outraged by the fact that I, prance around my, my underwear on the internet, and I don't give a fuck. So I took it as a compliment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I found that all these haters, they never have their own picture. Have you found that?
Yeah.
Pressure on women. Something that kind of really impacted me this year was when I saw was it the Super Bowl thing with The Weeknd? I can't remember what it's called. I'm not really up on media. The Super Bowl concert that they do is it February?
Yes.
It was The Weeknd this year.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was incredible. It was really, obviously, with the COVID restrictions, this massive show, and he was wearing this red blazer throughout the whole thing. The medley of his best songs. I'm not sure how long it goes on for, maybe 15 minutes. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Then you compare that to last year with J-Lo and Shakira, and it's all about ass, and she looks great, but isn't it, when it's a female performer, it's all about, costume changes and the body, whereas a male performer is not really doing costume changes because it's about the song, isn't it? I just thought it was a massive contrast.
I didn't see it. Honest, I get where you're coming from. I know what you're saying. I didn't see it. I'm gonna have to see it. I'm gonna have to watch it.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Because I mean, if you the protagonist of your work is the voice, then you don't need to have all these costume changes and flashing your ass and all of that kind of thing. I think as women,
but
probably more.
That goes back. It goes back to to sexism, and you're right. The focus a lot of times when it comes to women, no matter in what field, it could be athletes, it could be artists, it could be politicians.
Oh, even. Of course. Yeah, massively. I mean, remember the Theresa May and Nicola Sturgeon, the legs and stuff. I mean.
It's just it's unheard of, or so it's either the looks or their love lives, so like, who was it, Jennifer Aniston, who won
everyone feels sorry for her
about Brad Pitt, touching her arm. And you're like, who cares if he touched her arm? The woman just won an award for like an achievement, like her achievements, and it's just like it's sexist. That's sexism. Yeah,
definitely. And let's see some more. So do you have a favorite confession in your book?
I don't have a favorite, to be honest. I love so many of them. It would be very hard and mean of me to just pick one. The favorite I'll give you a few favorites from the different sections. Okay, so my favorite confession from the bodily fluid, obviously we've already mentioned, was not poop related. It's actually period related. And it's a woman who confessed that she wore a white jumpsuit, which already is a bit like, it's a white jumpsuit to a very, very, big event, and then ended up getting her period, having to go to the bathroom and sort of clean herself up, but realizing that actually that meant taking off the jumpsuit and remaining naked in a public toilet. And I guess it wasn't a lot of blood because she thought she could clean it, because, I'm thinking blood on a white jumpsuit, like, forget about it. But I guess it wasn't a lot. So what she did was she went into the toilet, she took off the jumpsuit, and she washed it in the toilet water.
Oh my God. Oh, that sounds awful. Wow.
That's one of I love that one. Because you could just picture it, right? She writes it. It's also written really well. Like, it was quite detailed, and, the mayor was there, and it's very dramatic. So I love that confession. We've had lots of sex confessions, obviously. The sex section, obviously, is like the biggest section in the book, as you can probably imagine. There's a lot of people confessing, to masturbating with a lot of very strange items. I think probably the strangest item is a fidget spinner.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
actually moving, which is it?
I don't know. And the way it was like the best orgasm she ever had. So I'm now very curious.
Wow. I saw one that kind of like impacted me earlier about the butt plug. I mean, I'm actually also a sex toy designer now, and I'm really trying to make the industry safer, because there's no regulations in this industry at all. And so butt plugs have to have this flared base, and a lot of them don't. There are stories, though, because you can absorb a toy quite easily. And there's a story that was in the Daily Mail and some other newspapers in the UK about a girl who was with a guy.
The end, though, that it's like it can't, so like it's a big, you can't.
Yeah, but some of them have got these little jewels on them, and those ones are not wide enough. And there's a girl who was using one of those. It was metal, and then she's with a boyfriend, and they're like, "Where did you put the butt plug?" And they're like, "Where is it?" Looking all over, and then she lays on her stomach, and it's vibrating. And she had to go to the hospital. It's really great that she shared the story, because this happens way more often.
Come back out? Like, wouldn't it have just come back out? Like,
no, because you can absorb it. That's why they need to have this flared base. It's so important.
Oh, where would it go? End up in your stomach? Like,
yeah, exactly. There's like an X-ray with you see the butt plug inside. So I think it's the comments were hilarious, but I think it's fantastic that this girl shared the story with the press, because it's really important to raise awareness about this, because it's so important, and it's not enough talked about with sex toys and safety. I mean, the first time I went to the sex toy fair in Germany, I had an awful reaction to some balls. And it was, do you know what Bartholinitis is?
No.
It's when the Bartholin glands in the vagina swell.
Okay.
They're the glands that make the lubrication. So I had like one of my labia went like this. So 2 days after this fair, I couldn't walk. And I was thinking, this industry that doesn't even take safety into account. It's really quite scandalous. I'm trying to do all I can from the inside to make everything safer.
The fair, are you going to the fair this November?
It's actually been postponed to spring, so hopefully, it was going to be in November, but
because I was invited to go this year. Actually, I was invited by one of the sex brands that I collaborate with, but we haven't discussed it now in a long time, so maybe that's why they hadn't mentioned it. I'm really intrigued. I'd love to go.
Oh, yeah, we'll
And
definitely see you there. It's so much fun. It's
yeah,
really cool because it's like part of just business to business. So you get to meet everyone in the
oh,
industry.
it sounds amazing. I'm gonna talk to them about it again. Because yeah, now that I know you're there, that will be so much fun.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you get loads of free stuff. And the funny thing is when you're going through the airport on the way back, I mean the people on the security have seen all these, opening all these
Oh,
suitcases with like loads of dildos and stuff, because everyone's giving out free stuff. So you come out with all these big bags, it's really fun.
I feel like I've got enough now.
Never
Like,
enough.
yeah, there's never enough. I know it's just not enough time. But
Exactly.
yeah.
A couple of quick questions. What
Sure.
is the book that changed your life?
I don't know if I'd say it changed my life, but a book that I think was very significant, and I read it very long ago. Probably need to read it again, and I hope I don't say the title wrong. It's Running with, oh God, is it Running with Wolves?
Yeah, I
Do you
think it's
know?
Running with Wolves. I've heard of it. I don't know who wrote it, but a lot of people talk about that book.
Because I want to say the name of the author. Let me just find it. I read this in my 20s. Yes, Women Who Run with Wolves. And it is by, oh God, wait a minute, The Power of Wild Woman, paperback. Where does it say the author? That's so odd. Why can't it follow the author? Clarissa Pinkola Estes. I read this in my 20s, and actually I'm going to order this again, and I'm going to read it again, because I remember like being so inspired by this book. Never thought about women in that kind of way. It talks about like your inner wild animal, and just never thought about it that way. I grew up in Israel, and I guess my parents had a very traditional type of relationship. My dad was the provider, my mom was at home. In many ways I felt like I felt my mom will probably say this about herself as well, but I felt like my mom, that wild woman that I did see, never came out. Like, do you know what I mean? In that relationship. Yeah. And it felt like that was the role that women were going to play, like the role that we were meant to play. And when I read that book, it blew me away. It really did. I wonder if I'll have the same reaction if I read it now. I'll have to tell you. Yeah.
And what about, do you have a phrase or a quote that you live by, or a favorite affirmation?
I don't know. I mean, I love the sort of like fuck it, just fuck it. Okay. But also, like, and also, I guess I love saying yes, like say yes, figure it out later. I feel like that's a really good approach just in general, because I think that if I think too much, I get too scared of things, and I think of all the things that might go wrong and what I worry about, and then I'll just end up saying no. So I just go, yes, and I'll figure it out later.
It's interesting. There's a film called Yes Man with Jim Carrey. I've not seen it, but it's like that philosophy when you start saying yes to things and how doors and opportunities open up.
It's true. Every time, like, I think I've ordered the book, by the way. Every time you sort of like ponder too much about something, I don't know, it just tends to not happen. And if you go like with that positive energy, yeah, things happen. And also I think it's a way for me, at least, to cope with fear, because I am afraid of a lot of things. I'm scared of flying, and I'm scared of stuff. If I really sat down and thought about how I'm, going up on stage, I would never go on stage, But the way I say to myself was, why are you worrying about it today? It's not today. You've got like 14 days. So worry about it in 14 days. And then like, that's how and then when the day comes, I'm like, why are you worrying about it now? It's like, it's in 20 minutes. Like, there's no point worrying about it now. That's kind of how I do it.
Great. So where can people find you?
So if you're looking for the book is available worldwide, and probably the best place to go is just Amazon, depending on what country you're in. And for myself, my platforms, so just Tova Leigh, Tova _Leigh, which is Leigh on Instagram. and TikTok and Facebook and YouTube. And my website is tovaleigh.com, which has all of my information.
Fantastic. Tova, thank you so much for joining us today on the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. It's been very entertaining.
I love the title of your podcast.
So reaching the climax in all areas of life, because I'm talking to people of all areas like spirituality, nutrition, and sexuality. And so I'm so sick of this over-sexed kind of approach to sexuality. It's not how I see sexuality. I want to just kind of present it as part of lifestyle. So that's kind of the philosophy behind it.
Right, because the way usually if the press kind of write about it, they make it sound very, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think porn is like the McDonald's of sex, you know, so I want to kind of get away from that and get more into a healthy lifestyle. And also with the censorship, I get sick of all this kind of like tits and ass content you see in this industry, you know, like, sick of it.
Totally. Cool. So thank you so much for having me.
And thank you to you. And hopefully I will see you in the spring in Hanover. That'd be so cool.
I don't wait.
Okay. Well, good luck with your tour and everything.
Thank you so much.